Gratitude is rarely mentioned in conversations about wealth, and when it is often dismissed as sentimental, something nice to feel after success arrives, not something serious enough to help create it. Yet when you read the most enduring books on money, success, and long-term wealth, gratitude appears again and again, quietly shaping outcomes from beneath the surface, not as a motivational slogan, but as a stabilizing force, not as a reward for having more, but as a discipline that allows people to build without self-destructing along the way. Most people assume that dissatisfaction is the engine of wealth. If you are not hungry, you will not strive. If you are not restless, you will not grow. But financial books that study real human behavior suggest something more nuanced. Chronic dissatisfaction does not sharpen focus, it erodes judgment. It creates impatience, comparison, and unnecessary risk. Gratitude, in contrast, does not reduce ambition. It refines it. It anchors people in reality while allowing them to reach forward without panic. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel hints at this truth when he writes about enough. People who never feel grateful for what they have are incapable of defining sufficiency. Without sufficiency, there is no finish line, only escalation. And escalation is dangerous. It leads to over-leveraging, lifestyle inflation, and the constant sense that progress is meaningless because someone else is always ahead. Gratitude interrupts this cycle by creating a reference point. It allows wealth builders to say, I appreciate where I am, and I am intentionally choosing where to go next. That balance is rare and powerful. Gratitude also plays a critical role in risk management, though few books name it explicitly. When people feel perpetually behind, they take risks that are misaligned with their true capacity. They chase returns instead of building resilience. But those who practice gratitude tend to protect what they have built, not out of fear, but out of respect. They understand the effort it took to get here, and that understanding changes how casually they gamble with it. Wealth books consistently show that preservation is as important as accumulation, and gratitude quietly reinforces that instinct. Another overlooked function of gratitude is patience. Wealth, when built sustainably, requires long stretches where nothing looks impressive. Compounding is invisible for years. Progress feels slow. Results lag behind effort. In these moments, gratitude acts as psychological fuel. It keeps people engaged with the process rather than obsessed with the outcome. Books that tell true wealth stories reveal that those who endure the long middle are often those who can appreciate incremental progress, small savings, modest gains, improved habits without demanding immediate validation. Gratitude also reduces comparison, one of the most corrosive forces in financial life. Many books warn that comparison destroys contentment and clarity. You compare your beginning to someone else's middle, your reality to someone else's highlight reel. Gratitude recenters attention inward. It shifts focus from what am I missing to what am I building. This shift does not make people complacent, it makes them consistent. And consistency, far more than intensity, is what wealth books identify as the true driver of long-term success. In business and investing books alike, you often find stories of people who lost everything, not because they lacked skill, but because they lost appreciation for what they already had. Success bred entitlement. Entitlement bred excess. Excess bred fragility. Gratitude would not have prevented ambition, but it might have preserved humility. And humility, as many books quietly argue, is one of the strongest financial risk controls available. Another subtle role gratitude plays is in learning. People who are grateful for their current position tend to learn more effectively from mistakes. They do not interpret setbacks as personal failure or injustice. They see them as part of a larger process they are fortunate to be participating in. This mindset encourages reflection rather than defensiveness. Wealth books emphasize learning from error as a key differentiator between those who recover and those who quit. Gratitude keeps the ego soft enough to learn, Gratitude also reshapes the relationship between money and identity. Without it, money becomes a measure of worth. With it, money becomes a tool. This distinction appears repeatedly in books that address financial independence and long-term fulfillment. When people are grateful, they are less likely to attach their self-esteem to their net worth. This emotional separation leads to better decisions under pressure. Losses hurt less. Gains don't inflate ego. Balance becomes possible. What is most striking when you step back is that gratitude is not presented in these books as a feeling, but as a practice, a way of interpreting reality, a filter applied to success and failure alike. People who build wealth while remaining grounded often keep simple rituals, reflecting on progress, acknowledging support systems, recognizing how far they have come. These practices are not indulgent. They are protective. They prevent the psychological distortions that derail long-term plans. As years pass in the stories these books tell, gratitude begins to serve another function. It clarifies purpose. When people appreciate what wealth has already provided, security, flexibility, peace, they stop chasing abstract numbers and start making intentional choices. Growth becomes selective. Money is directed toward what matters rather than what impresses. This is often the point where wealth becomes sustainable, because it aligns with values instead of ego. Perhaps the greatest misconception about gratitude is that it belongs at the end of the journey. In reality, the book suggests the opposite. Gratitude is most powerful at the beginning and in the middle when uncertainty is highest and validation is lowest. It steadies the mind when results lag and protects judgment when success arrives. It does not replace effort. It makes effort survivable. As you absorb this perspective, a quiet truth emerges. Gratitude is not the opposite of ambition. It is the guardrail that keeps ambition from turning destructive. It allows people to pursue more without resenting what they already have. It creates the emotional stability required for compounding to work not just financially, but psychologically. And this is where the story begins to deepen. Because once gratitude is understood, not as a moral virtue, but as a strategic advantage, the question shifts from, why should I be grateful? To, how does gratitude change the way I build, protect, and use wealth? It is at this point that the books move from observation to application, revealing how disciplined gratitude reshapes decision-making, risk tolerance, and long-term satisfaction, and how the quiet practice of appreciation can become one of the most underrated forces behind enduring wealth, unfolding gradually, almost invisibly, like K4 Tom Tom Danoi No, unfolding gradually, almost invisibly, like roots spreading beneath the soil, strengthening the tree long before any fruit appears. And this is where gratitude, when practiced deliberately, reveals itself not as a feeling, but as a framework for building wealth that lasts. In the second half of this perspective, the books become remarkably practical. They show that gratitude changes decision-making at the exact moments when money decisions matter most, under stress, under temptation, and under success. When people are ungrateful, every choice feels urgent. More must be gained faster. When people are grounded in gratitude, urgency softens into intention. They can pause, they can choose, and that pause is where good financial decisions are born. One of the clearest patterns in book-inspired wealth stories is that gratitude improves timing. Grateful people are less likely to chase overheated opportunities, not because they lack ambition, but because they are not driven by fear of missing out. They already feel anchored. This emotional stability allows them to wait for conditions that make sense, to invest when value appears rather than when excitement peaks. Many great investors described in books did not win by acting first, but by acting last after the noise faded. Gratitude made that patience tolerable. Gratitude also reshapes how people respond to gains. Without it, success quickly breeds excess. The lifestyle inflates. Risk tolerance quietly expands. Past effort is forgotten. With gratitude, success is met with respect. People remember how fragile progress once felt. They reinvest rather than consume. They strengthen foundations instead of chasing symbols. Financial books repeatedly show that fortunes are often lost not in failure, but in success handled poorly. Gratitude acts as a stabilizer in those moments, keeping growth from turning reckless. Another powerful effect of gratitude is how it changes the experience of scarcity. In the early stages of wealth building, resources are limited and choices are constrained. Many people respond with frustration, which leads to shortcuts and desperation. Gratitude does not deny scarcity, it reframes it. It allows people to see constraints as temporary conditions rather than permanent injustice. This mindset preserves creativity. Instead of asking, "Why don't I have more?" grateful builders ask, "How can I make the most of what I have right now?" Books show that this question often leads to skill development, side projects, and disciplined habits that compound later. As wealth grows, gratitude continues to serve a vital role by preventing identity distortion. Without gratitude, money becomes proof of superiority or safety. With gratitude, money remains contextual, a result of effort, opportunity, and support systems that extend beyond the individual. This perspective keeps ego in check, and ego, as many financial books quietly warn, is one of the most expensive liabilities a person can carry. Gratitude lowers that cost. Over time, gratitude also changes how wealth is used. People who are grateful tend to spend more intentionally and give more thoughtfully, not to signal virtue, but to reinforce meaning. Books that explore long-term fulfillment consistently show that wealth used with appreciation creates satisfaction, while wealth used to fill emotional gaps creates dependency. Gratitude clarifies the difference. It helps people direct money toward experiences, security, and contribution rather than endless accumulation. Perhaps the most profound insight that emerges is that gratitude protects against regret. Financial life is full of imperfect decisions. Markets move, opportunities are missed, mistakes are made. Without gratitude, these moments harden into self-criticism. With gratitude, they become perspective. People recognize progress even when outcomes are not ideal. This emotional resilience keeps them engaged rather than paralyzed. And engagement over decades matters far more than flawless execution. Eventually, gratitude reshapes the entire narrative of wealth building. The journey is no longer framed as a race against others or against time. It becomes a relationship with money, with effort, with life itself. People stop asking, "When will I finally arrive?" and start noticing that arrival is not a moment, but a state of mind. The books do not say this explicitly, but their stories make it clear. Those who enjoy wealth the most are often those who practiced appreciation long before they had much to appreciate. And this leads to the quiet conclusion of the story. Gratitude does not make you wealthy by magic. It makes you wealthy by discipline. It steadies behavior, refines ambition, reduces destructive risk, and preserves clarity across success and failure alike. It allows compounding to do its work without being interrupted by impatience or ego. In that sense, gratitude is not an accessory to wealth, it is part of the engine. If this perspective resonated with you, pause and reflect on one aspect of your financial life you often overlook because it feels ordinary now. A habit you've built, a buffer you've created, a freedom you didn't have before. Share that reflection, because gratitude, when practiced consciously, doesn't just make wealth more enjoyable, it makes it more durable. And if you want to continue exploring how the quiet principles hidden in books shape not just money, but peace of mind, stay connected. Subscribe, follow, and return. Because the strongest financial advantage is often the one that keeps you steady while everything else urges you to rush.